The observation. Every single time you look at your account balance, the affluent see a misstep, not a shortcoming of effort, not poor luck, but a psychological flaw that they exploit. They don't see a person, they see a predictable pattern. This segment is not about tax stipulations or property. It's about 5 fundamental errors Charlie Munger believed guarantee mediocrity. You're about to perceive the unkind truth about how the most successful entities on Earth truly regard your material existence. The disparity in monetary outcome begins with this simple act of psychological forecasting, so think about your next move. The mental model. Charlie Munger asserted that attaining long-duration achievement is less about high intellect and much more about avoiding habitual missteps. The truly wealthy, those who attain and retain colossal fortunes, view the general populace through the lens of psychological tendencies. They comprehend that most folks commit common, observable cognitive errors that guarantee mediocre financial existence. By identifying these flaws in others, the financially astute merely sidestep the most typical perils. To escape being classified as predictable collateral, think about your next move. The central question. The central query, then, is not, what do they possess that I do not? The more fitting investigation, derived from Munger's core philosophy, is what faults in my own conduct confirm their low assessment of my future chances. We are not discussing moral failings, we are scrutinizing the 5 behavioral biases that turn one's resources into another's profit. Addressing these flaws is the singular, simple precept that shuts down the affluent's primary source of fresh input, you. So think about your next move. Mistake number 1. The tendency of denial. The initial, gigantic psychological fault spotted by successful entities is denial. This phenomenon is the refusal to accept an unpleasant objective existence. If one's venture is failing or fiscal position is incorrect, the commonplace individual frequently doubles down, choosing fantasy over reality. The affluent recognize that stubborn clinging to a discredited notion is a common, reliable indication of impending material collapse. They see that most persons are mentally incapable of admitting, I was mistaken. So think about your next move. The cost of self-deception. This failure to confront harsh facts is highly costly. It is the core reason someone holds a losing holding, remains in a declining occupation, or clings to a relationship that wastes their vitality. Denial prevents corrective action, guaranteeing that modest trouble transforms into total wreckage. Those on top simply wait for the moment when a person's self-deception finally forces them into an unavoidable, panicked, and costly retreat. So think about your next move. The antidote to denial. The wealthy combat denial by cultivating an intense, nearly painful dedication to objectivity. They employ a reverse feedback loop, seeking out individuals who disagree with their perspective and arguments that threaten their dearest convictions. Your capability to promptly acknowledge error is your ultimate safeguard against this foundational misstep. It is a necessary, critical mental operation. Consequently, think about your next move. Mistake number 2, the malady of envy. The second psychological bias that the affluent observe, and one Munger labeled as the only stupid sin, is envy. When most citizens see another's meteoric rise or extravagant acquirement, their default emotional retort is resentment or bitterness. This reaction consumes internal resources and attention that should be devoted to personal enhancement. The successful know that an envious man is a distracted man, one focused laterally or backward, never ahead. So think about your next move. The envy countermeasure. The strategic countermeasure to envy is, simply put, admiration coupled with emulation. Instead of allowing another's triumph to diminish your self-perception, redirect that intense feeling into curiosity. How did they execute that maneuver? By switching your outlook from the perceived injustice of the outcome to the actual processes employed, you transmute a harmful feeling into fuel for betterment. So think about your next move. Mistake number 3, overconfidence and illusion of competence. The third consistent error observed is the illusion of competence. Munger always stressed the necessity of remaining strictly within one's circle of knowledge. The masses, due to a cognitive bias where ignorance breeds certainty, habitually adventure outside their sphere of expertise, making terrible choices in territories they do not comprehend. The affluent know that this overestimation of one's own faculties is a consistent source of catastrophic, unnecessary peril. So think about your next move. The cost of hubris. This specific error manifests whenever non-professionals attempt a complex undertaking, such as rapid security dealings, initiating a venture outside their vocation, or making pronouncements on global affairs they barely grasp. This hubris guarantees suboptimal execution. Successful observers know that a populace frequently operating outside its knowledge boundaries generates numerous discount opportunities, where capital can be purchased at a bargain following the novice's inevitable misjudgment. So think about your next move. The competence boundary. The remedy is the rigorous demarcation of one's own knowledge boundaries. This involves a brutal self-inventory of what you definitively know versus what you merely suspect. If the topic falls outside that clear boundary, the remedy is silence, caution, or paid consultation. This humility is rare in the general culture and is one of the most protected characteristics of genuine wealth creators. So think about your next move. Mistake number 4. Short-term focus, the lack of deferral. The fourth misstep is the crippling failure of deference. This is the immediate seizure of satisfaction over the potential for exponentially higher reward later. The rich note that the majority will always choose a small benefit today over a massive return in a decade. This behavior ensures that long-term accretions, compounding assets, system construction, or mastery of a demanding field never commence or mature. This failure is purely a discipline deficit, not a material one. So think about your next move. The final operational fault noted by successful persons is the excessive focus on transactions over systems. Most populace members view capital appreciation as stemming from frequent purchases and liquidations. The affluent discern that enduring success comes from minimizing motion and prioritizing the holding of superlative assets for generations. This hyperactivity is a sign of emotional immaturity and absence of fortitude. So think about your next move. The simple rule, the behavioral counterbalance. The simple rule to avoid all 5 psychological errors, denial, envy, overconfidence, short-term focus, and transactional focus, is to substitute a behavioral counterbalance for every natural human impulse. When your mind shouts, act now, denial, counter with assess fact. When it screams, compare, envy, counter with admire and emulate. The affluent observe your predictable mental weaknesses. Your singular safeguard is this deliberate, anti-instinctual self-mastery. If you found the courage to look at these 5 faults honestly, your next move must be to join a community dedicated to building mental fortresses. Don't stay predictable. Secure your advantage by subscribing now, and together we will transform predictable errors into powerful principles. So think about your next move.